This is the truth code explaining Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. This is Marco Diogenes' accurate copy of the original. Leonardo da Vinci did put a message in the Last Supper, but it had nothing whatsoever to do with Mary Magdalene. It had everything to do with the Gnosis. And he did not use a code. He used a language. The reason that it is thought that there is a coded message is the language is not understood. When you understand the language, the message is clear, which makes Leonardo's accomplishment all the more spectacular. Leonardo da Vinci put the Gnosis right in front of the believers and power mongers, and they've never seen it for what it is. Knowing and the individual knower are not only the greatest threat to the Catholic Church's power on earth, they are the greatest threat to any self-serving, infantile, retentive, narcissistic power cult that mankind has ever devised. A symbol is an image that is spontaneously produced by the unconscious. It is archetypal and universal. A sign is an adulterated symbol full of personal content. We all work with signs, and if you don't know the problem, the difference between a sign and a symbol, you're going to work with signs forever, and you're not going to get very far in your understanding. And you are likely to see M's where none exist, and you are likely to mistake the image of an undifferentiated hermaphrodite for the image of a woman. If you are aware of the problem, the difference between a sign and a symbol, then you can work with the sign down toward the symbolic meaning, and you know you're getting close when you keep coming up with archetypal themes, repeating archetypal themes. Here is an example. The equilateral cross is an ancient symbol, an ancient image, representing the two realms, the spiritual and the physical. These are projections of the unconscious psyche and the conscious psyche. The Christian cross has sign qualities, meaning a conscious ego made decisions to prefer one thing over the other. This just shows that certain things exist. This shows a preference for one over the other. The horizontal line is moved upward, favoring the up over the down. This is where the light is in myth. This is where the dark is. This is where good is. This is where evil is. It shows a preference. The horizontal line is shorter than the vertical line, showing a preference for the spiritual over the physical. Only a conscious ego can make this decision. The conscious ego here receives this information directly from the unconscious, saying that it exists. And then this is ego passive. This is ego active. Two very different mindsets. Being fully aware of the problem of subjectivity and objectivity, I offer the following for peer review. And if anybody knows anything about Leonardo, they know he was very handsy in his imagery, used hands to relay messages. And this is what this painting is all about, mostly what it is all about. Javier Sierra, in his book, The Secret Supper, used a very clever literary device and said that each character spelled out consolamentum from right to left, the backward script, like Leonardo used. They don't, but it was a clever thing for him to do, but he got it right. Consolamentum means baptism by other means, and this is the baptism by hands here, not by fire or water. And it is this fellow right here who is undergoing the baptism. And by extension, any viewer like you can go through the baptism as well. So beware, it is real, it is problematic, and even dangerous. So let's get into the archetypal and subjective imagery here. This fellow all the way to this side, the farthest away. First of all, anything horizontal represents the physical. That's what the table does. Here's the spiritual axis, and you've got the 3 and these 4 tapestries here, referring to the numbers and geometric figures. This guy farthest away from the spiritual has his hands, both palms down on the table. This refers to his attitude. All of their hands refer to their particular attitudes. This is archetypal, no doubt. He's got his hands on the table. It's subjective, his interpretation of his reaction. I would say this guy is sensory oriented. I don't believe it. Show me the truth. Again, that's subjective interpretation. So you've got both of them, subjective and objective, archetypal and personal. This guy here has got his hands on his brother's shoulders, not touching the table, not pointing upward to the spiritual. His concerns are for his brothers. This guy here is astonished, right? No, he's showing us the opposites, the left and the right. That's one of the basic themes, is duality in the opposites. That's what the Christ is showing. His upward pointing hand, downward pointing left hand. This is Joseph Campbell's fear dispelling and boon bestowing. Yeah, whatever. It's pointing to the 2 realms, the 2 worlds, the eternal and the temporal, the spiritual and the physical. There's so many images of gods pointing upward and downward, right and left, the 2 worlds. It's a projection of the conscious down here and the unconscious. Okay. This guy here with the knife, I'm not sure what this means, just odd representation here. Please feel free to add your interpretation. Clearly not touching the table, not into the physical, not into the spiritual. This is revenge, and that is a big motive for people. Revenge. We all suffer trauma as children, which we sublimate our reaction to, and later carry it out against a target, by an easy target by proxy. This happens so much in human nature. Revenge is a big motivating factor in human nature. Here, of course, you have Judas. He's all over the table. He's all over the material. Spilling the salt shaker, spilling his salary, his worth. Hand on the money bag. Left hand up. What is he grasping for? I don't know. But his left hand is up. Or the Christ's right hand is up. What are they going for? That's an opposition. He's opposing the Christ. Okay. This figure here, major figure in question. His hands are the closest together of all of them. They're interlocked. This is either an image of union in alchemy, the advanced state of the king and queen in unification, or this is an undifferentiated hermaphrodite, not yet advanced in any kind of development. You don't know if it's a man or a woman. It's a man and a woman because they haven't been differentiated yet. I'm opting for that interpretation. Has nothing to do with Mary Magdalene. Has everything to do with the undifferentiated, undeveloped psyche. Now we have these 3 figures over here. These 2 guys have their hands above the table, not pointing up, above the table, horizontal, gesturing towards the spiritual figure. To me, that says they're, hey, give it up for this guy. He's, what is he saying? He's the man. He's the man. And there is Leonardo da Vinci. And what is he saying? One of his hands, his left hand, is touching the table. He's aware of both worlds, the physical and the spiritual, the upward pointing here. This oddly shaped hand right here is, in my estimation, cupped. There is no Holy Grail anywhere. This, to me, is the Holy Grail. This is the cup. This is the personal reference to the container. That's what the cup is. The Holy Grail is the container. The blood and the wine refer to the psychic libido. The developed psyche can accept the psychic libido in the visionary experience. That's what it all comes down to, in my estimation. Again, this is subjective versus objective, but the ideas are backed up by archetypal themes repeated in other mythic imagery. This fellow right here, his hands are the closest together of all of them except this one, who is interlocked. This is self-concern. One of you is going to betray me. Oh, say it's not me. Is it me? That's just self-unawareness, self-concern. Again, a lack of development, undifferentiation. This guy here, his right hand's down here somewhere touching the table. He's aware of the two worlds. He's pointing to the upward with the one symbol. I think this guy is countering Jesus telling everybody about duality and the opposites. Oh no, God is one. He's up there. It's a very one-sided attitude, even though he's touching the table. He's aware of the downside, the material side, and he's countering what Jesus says. It's a typical philosophical religious attitude, which is not part of the gnosis. Then we come to this figure. Right hand up, left hand down. Hands the farthest apart, other than the Christ figure. This guy is undergoing the baptism by hands, not by fire and water. What is he looking at? What's there? Not the Thanksgiving turkey. There's nothing there except the Christ referring to the circle. He's having an inner vision. This guy here represents the gnosis, the inner vision. This is our right. This is our heritage. This is what has been lost through time and neglect, through the preference to not know, and what has been denied to us by people that live by the power motive. The power-mongering priests who tell us, you just do what we tell you to do, and you'll get to heaven after you're dead, when in fact getting to heaven refers to this. This guy is getting to heaven. He is getting the inner vision between the conscious and the unconscious referring to the non-temporal, the eternal, heaven, perfection, and so forth. He's having the inner vision. This is what it's all about. This is what the Christ is saying. Hands apart, open yourself up to the truth, the upward and the downward, the unconscious, the conscious, the two realms. This guy is saying, this is who you are. Everybody else has their own opinions. And he's saying, I don't have to be Christ. I can be a person and know who I am. This guy has the beginning of the experience, which Leonardo apparently was born close to and had all to himself for a very long time, leading to his great understanding of things. Quickly, the archetypal, the point in the symmetry, the lines of perspective are right there. There's a circle described in the original painting with a horizontal line going across it. That's the fulvic and the phallic, the opposites. The archetypal imagery expressed through geometry and numbers. 3, and there's 4 tapestries over here, 4 tapestries over here, referring to the two realms, the physical and the spiritual. Those are archetypal messages that I think Leonardo either was fully aware of or in the process of the creative process, produced them, having direct access to the unconscious, the content of which he did artistically, taken the form of the unconscious, the unconscious archetypes. The dictum is, know thyself, temet nose, which implies that we don't know ourselves. Why don't we, and what would we do know if we did know ourselves? The reason why is our self-knowledge, to whatever degree we have accomplished it in the past, has been lost through time and neglect, through the preference to not know, and it has been denied us by the people that live by the power motive. The what is depth psychology. If you know thyself, you know depth psychology, which is taken from Jungian psychology, and it's called depth psychology to take it away from the problem of the cult of personality. Depth psychology is all about the reality of the unconscious and the conscious, the structure and function of the psyche, the two worlds, the two realms depicted in art by innumerable images such as this, going back tens of thousands of years. This is the personal gnosis that you have within you, the personal Christ, a direct connection to the unconscious, to the spirit realm. This is your heritage. This is your right. This is your ability. I hope you enjoyed this video.